Alrighty, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Noah and you're watching Nwadei MMA, the daily series on this channel where I give you my thoughts, but more importantly, ask for you guys' thoughts about everything going on in the MMA community today. Now, with that being said, I also post fight reactions, pre-fight and post-fight breakdowns, prediction videos, and MMA documentary series. If you haven't seen any of those, I'll go ahead and link them below, or you can go ahead and click on them as they pop up over here, or over here. Not sure which one. But with that being said, if you're interested in receiving daily MMA content and in-depth fight analysis, then there's no place better than here. If you have not already, you're more than welcome to subscribe, and let's get right into the video. So there's been some banter back and forth between Conor McGregor and Alexander Volkanovski. It hasn't been too extensive, but as soon as it happened, the MMA community picked it up right away and started chewing away at it, right? So they started saying Prime Conor versus Prime Alexander at 145, who would win, da-da-da-da-da. Alexander Volkanovski suggested 155. Conor McGregor clowned him and said that why do you need weight classes, pretty much. I think he's just too big to make 45, or I mean 55 is gonna be tough. And to be honest, I don't know how his motivation is if he's not willing to really cut weight. I understand it's a stupid topic, but when you were coming into the game, you were motivated to cut weight. When you were going for those belts, you were motivated to cut weight, right? So where's your motivation at if you're not wanting to cut weight, right? But that's a story for another day. Prime Conor versus, well, current Alexander, or Prime Alexander, so to speak, right? How would this fight go? If they were to have fought, who would win? Now, this is an interesting one because you have to, I guess, pick apart what each fighter does best, right? Alexander Volkanovski is a mastermind at almost point fighting, right? He's almost a mastermind at point fighting, but really what it is he has masterful footwork. He has a great knowledge of setting up his hands with his kicks, right? He probes from the outside, and then when you're least expecting it, that's when he'll enter with the hands. He has a great outlook on the MMA game as a whole, to where he'll mix it up very well. I mean, if you will and watch his fight with Jose Aldo, he tied Jose Aldo up for the whole fight and didn't let him really land anything solid, right? So he has the ability to nullify a fight. He has the ability to have great defense, as you saw in his Max Holloway fights with his great footwork. He'll establish his jab. However, the one problem he does have that I've been seeing is his ability to fight moving forward, right? Which is awkward to say for a shorter fighter, right? Because we're used to shorter fighters having to close the distance against the larger fighters. We expected him to have to close the distance against Max Holloway, but instead he stayed on the outside, similar to like a Gervonta Davis, baited them to come in so that he could land his power. Now, that's a very interesting thing when talking about a shorter guy, because a lot of times this doesn't always work out the best, and we also have to keep in mind that he's also had the longer reach in majority of his fights. Now, going against a guy like Conor McGregor, what does he do best? Well, of course, we know he has the X factor in his left hand. In his prime, he used to do a really good job engaging range and maintaining space. He was a master at making his opponent fall into that dead space to where he's overextended, his head is over his body, and he's getting clipped, right? We saw it with the Jose Aldo knockout. We saw it multiple times in Cage Warriors. And not only is he a mastermind at that, but that also ties into his ability to get into his opponent's head, get under their skin, get them fighting out of character, right? And not to mention his ability to go against a shorter fighter who doesn't have as much or as crisp of boxing as him. That's where his style works really well. We saw that with Eddie Alvarez as well. Now, I think multiple of these things are true when going against Alexander Volkanovski. He is both shorter. Conor's had a lot of success against shorter opponents. His boxing is not as crisp. He likes to mix in a lot of kicks, which he should. As a shorter fighter, you like to close the distance with your feet and set up your hands with your feet, right? So this is expected. However, what Conor has not fared well against is guys with a great gas tank, right? Guys like Nate Diaz, guys like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's willing to wrestle and grapple and make it a rough dog fight, right? We saw him against Chad Mendes. If Chad Mendes was on a full camp, that fight could have went differently, but because it wasn't, because he ended up getting tired, and because it was such a high pace right from the jump, which Conor created. Let's not forget that Conor created that high pace and that high output. He talked to him whenever he landed a clean shot. He was like, "That's all you got? Oh, you're getting tired already?" Getting into his head, making him think about how tired he's getting. That all fatigues a fighter more, which ended up in Conor's favor. He had a torn knee in that fight and still ended up going out with the win. So there's a lot of things to factor when talking about these two people in their prime. And if you take a look at the last Conor fight against Dustin Poirier, I think that Dustin Poirier kind of showed a little bit of the nuggets of how to beat Conor McGregor, and I don't think a lot of people have picked up on it yet. They just think you have to wrestle him or grapple him, but no, you can beat him striking as well, right? He's a great striker for MMA with his X factor in power, but when he has less power, it's less effective, his style, because he relies on you coming in, him hitting you with one shot and almost putting you out, right? He relies on that one shot knockout power a lot of the time, to where he isn't following up his combinations. And you saw that towards the end of that Dustin Poirier and Conor 3 fight, where Dustin Poirier started adding up on the combinations. He started throwing multiple jabs, not just one at a time, and Conor would maybe hit him or maybe miss in the middle of Dustin's combination, but then Dustin would continue to have the combination, and that's when Conor started grappling. That's when he got into the clinch exchange, and that's when all the crazy shit started happening, right? That's when the tide started to turn. People thought Conor was losing, and then his foot break happens and whatnot, which Dustin caused, by the way. It was not just an accident. Dustin caused that foot break. Argue with me if you want. I'll go ahead and make a video to where I'll prove you wrong. Now, to answer the question, to finally answer the question, who would win? We talked about the advantages they would have against either or, but who would really win this matchup? Well, to be honest, at the start of a fight, you could almost guarantee that Volkanovski is going to be standing on the outside, wanting Conor to come to him rather than feeding into Conor McGregor's counter-striking, because that's a very dangerous game. You can assume that he's going to be kicking the legs, both calf kick and regular leg kick, and using his footwork to stay on the outside and to not get caught against the cage. And you can almost bet that Conor is coming in using that side kick to the knee, using side kicks, front kicks, things to keep Volk at bay that are going to make him want to close that distance super quickly so that he could back up, get him into dead space, and land that cracker of a shot, right? Now, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, I do see Conor hurting him. I see Conor cracking him, hurting him, and getting him into that dead space, similar to the way Islam Makhachev got him into that dead space, right? A big thing going into that fight is he wanted to capitalize on the feet, right? Because he knows if Islam gets him down, it could be the end of the round. So he wanted to go for the finish on the feet. So we saw a little bit more of his forward pressure or his entries going forward. And if you enter like that against Conor McGregor with those wild overhands and left hooks and a lot less straight punches, then you're bound to eat those push kicks. You're bound to eat that left hand, and I can see Volkanovski getting cracked. However, if he were to stay on the outside, kick the legs for the first couple of rounds, let Conor get into the fight, push his way into the grappling situations, and just wrestle and rely on your gas tank and just say, I'm gonna be here longer than you will, then I can see it going the other way. Also, top that off with Alexander Volkanovski doing well against bigger, heavier opponents like Conor McGregor was at 145. Conor McGregor cutting all that weight down to 145 and maybe not having the best gas tank. Still, of course, we'll say he has a chin because he had a wild chin at both weight classes, or all 3 weight classes that he's competed in. But I do think Volkanovski would be able to nullify him, similar to the way he nullified Aldo, similar to the way he's nullified Max Holloway. Volkanovski is a mastermind, right? And I think he would be able to pick at the legs, box his way into the grappling exchanges, grapple for the first 1 or 2 rounds, make sure he's staying on the outside, and then not look to really strike until the later rounds, and maybe even look to get him down then when he's less likely to get up, right? So I do think Alexander Volkanovski would be walking away with this one. However, I think that there's a real possibility Conor cracks him before we can see really who's the better fighter, right? Or who has the better skill set, should I say. However, with that being said, guys, who do you think wins this fight? Prime Conor versus Prime Volkanovski. Jesus, that would, even if it's not their prime, even if they fight at 155 one day or 170 or wherever Conor wants them to be at. Who are y'all standing with in that fight? If y'all had one of those guys next to you at the bar and the other one wants to fight, who are you taking? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. Tell your friends to tell a friend that your boy Nwadei has a YouTube channel. Yes, Nwadei, not Nwadei. Nwadei. Guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.